The technical issues, but we are back. Game 1 will be getting played a little bit later on in the evening due to the loss of power over at the Team 1 house. But Ollie, Gio, get yourselves in here because we're hopping straight into match number 2 of the evening. It's going to be INTZ versus Santos. Ollie, what are you thinking about this one? It's looking like it could be a pretty close one here. Oh, I don't think Ollie's here. Gio, what do you think about this game?
I think it's going to be a very interesting one, especially...
He can't hear us. Hello. There he is.
I'm so sorry. Especially given the fact that INTZ and Santos have both been teams that we associate with being in that bottom 4. But Santos, this stage particularly, are actually doing quite well so far. They've beaten both NIP and FaZe, which are quite heavy hitters. I mean, FaZe, we already spoke about, they're locked into the Cobra Elite 6 at this point already. So Santos have actually seen quite a decent bit of improvement compared to what we would think of them, even just last stage, but definitely in stage 1.
Definitely. It's been really impressive to watch, hasn't it, Ollie? It is interesting, though, that the games that they have lost have been against not the very top level of teams. We've mentioned this a couple times, how they don't feel as much pressure going against the top teams because they are often seen as the underdogs. Do you think that this stays true with INTZ, or will the pressure really be on for them now?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think that there's a lot of pressure on this game, and it's something that I brought up in the pre-show, is that there's potential for this to be a 6-point game. These two teams are locked up on 22 points apiece right now, and they need to, one of them needs to put some distance between the other, and a win against that team is going to give them the best opportunity of doing that, because then regardless of every other result, they've still got that win. So one of these teams is going to come out the better today, and that, as you say, Chunks, can add quite a large amount of pressure, and we've seen what Santos are like, particularly when they are under that pressure. Sometimes they do tend to crack, whereas when they're playing against a team where you don't expect them to get a win, they usually perform quite well.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned it, Ollie. These teams currently in 7th and 8th place. It's going to be a close one. For anyone who wants to know a little bit more about these teams, then get your pen and paper out, take some notes, because here's a quick intro to match number 2.
Neck and neck, INTZ and Santos are all tied up in the standings. This next match is all important for both teams as they attempt to escape relegation from the BR6. If we look at 2021, it seems like Santos has the best chances to win here. 2 wins so far this stage, the last a regulation 7-5 on Villa.
A equipe do Santos vence a INTZ por 7-5.
Contra a INTZ, a gente basicamente induziu o que a gente fez no primeiro split, que foi a mesma vitória que a gente teve contra a INTZ também. A gente falou, vamos adaptar no mesmo estilo de jogo que vai dar certo. Aí a gente falou, vamos fazer o nosso estilo de jogo mesmo, mais agressivo, porque eles são os caras mais recuados, e vai dar certo. Foi isso.
Foi a minha estreia, eu tava um pouco nervoso. Acho que o time, assim, a gente tava com pouco tempo de line também. A gente não conseguiu se encontrar muito no jogo e a gente acabou tomando um 7-5. Foi pegado.
INTZ come into today's match coming from a tightly contested win against Liquid last Sunday, despite their severe loss against Black Dragons a day earlier. On the flip side, Santos had a poor weekend with 2 losses in both games. Remember that INTZ has played 1 match less than Santos, but a victory would push their opponent to the bottom of the table, and Santos still need to adapt with their newly contracted player MGN.
Da mesma forma que eles adaptaram entre frag, a gente está fazendo a mesma coisa. Então, assim como foi no primeiro e no segundo split, a gente quer trazer a vitória e, de acordo com o jogo deles, a gente acha que vai vir sim.
O jogo de hoje acho que vai ser um pouco mais tranquilo pra gente. A gente se encontrou realmente, então acho que a gente vai conseguir essa vitória.
2 teams with much to prove, but little time to do so, must present results. All the reason more for you to stick around to watch this match between INTZ and Santos.
Well, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that's fair to say, Ollie, with these two teams. Obviously, you know, INTZ struggled a little bit to start off their stage. They haven't got as many wins as they have losses, but the win that they do have was a pretty impressive one, coming 8-7 over Liquid, which, well, it's got to be a confidence boost.
It's going to be a confidence boost, but it's still only worth 2 points, and it's one of the reasons why they're in and amongst the bottom of the table. I think that it's going to give them that level of confidence to come into this game tonight against Santos, but they're going to need a little bit more than that if they're going to run deeper and actually go and get the win here tonight. But still, I mean, I don't know which team I'm favouring going into this. I've still not really decided. I don't even know if I've properly got my head into this match, seeing as we are a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think it's a really tough one to call. I don't think that many people will be that sure one way or another.
Yeah, I think it will be a very close one indeed, Gio. Look, a big thing that we always talk about is how the teams play and what map you think they're maybe going to go for. If we hop into the map vetoes, what are you expecting to maybe end up on? Anything that you really expect to get banned early on?
Well, I mean, I think if you're INTZ, you might want to ban the two maps that Santos have beaten those very heavy hitters on were Villa and Oregon. So maybe you'd want to consider getting rid of either of those two. However, given that the map that INTZ beat Team Liquid on was Clubhouse, maybe you would prefer to lean more towards those quote-unquote strategic maps rather than the really aggressive ones, you know. Since Consulate got taken out, there's been a large favor that's lent towards coastline here in Brazil so far, but evidently INTZ, they don't want to go there. They've banned that one out, and these two teams have been doing better on the, you know, the less pew-pew maps anyway. So we'll see where that one goes, because Oregon now out. Okay, I was trying to figure out which ones that I'd already said had been taken out. And we'll be going to Villa, which is very intriguing, just given how well Santos did against NIP on that map. If I'm not mistaken, was it a 7-0 that they beat them on?
It was a pretty big one, if I remember correctly. I think it was a 7-5 that Santos won against NIP.
Oh, it was Team 1 who beat NIP 7-0.
Yeah, you just wanted to rub in the 7-0 to NIP, didn't you? But
well,
yeah,
obviously
a very strong win coming out from Santos. On that topic, Ollie, I do want to ask, it feels like the win over NIP, the win over FaZe, they were definitely the ones that kind of stole the show. But how much of that was just the fact that FaZe and NIP started off the stage on, well, below average form? I think that's fair to say.
I think they did. I think that some of the bigger teams inside of the league have certainly started off a little bit slower. Liquid, understandably. NIP a little bit less so, maybe. FaZe, again, a bit of a shaky one. So nothing's really gone the way that anybody expected so far at the start of Stage 3. But both of these two teams have got a really good track record on the map of Villa. You know, you look over toward INTZ. INTZ were the team that beat NIP on this map in Stage 2 and removed a near 12-month unbeaten spree on the map. So it's both of the teams have got very good credentials for this map. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to end up playing one another on Villa. And it's really just going to come down to which team shows up on the day, because I think that truly both of these teams could take it. It's probably going to be one of the I mean, I said this a couple of times last week and look where that got us, but it's probably going to be one of the closer games of the night for my money.
Yeah, I think it definitely will, but we've seen so far just how things can really be up in the air coming into the BR6. As we've said so many times, Gio, teams are stacked from top to bottom. It doesn't matter where you really are in the leaderboards, because everyone just has that potential.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that with the fact, you know, go back to the graphic that we saw at the very beginning of the show today, which was the Stage 3 standings. The fact that Santos are up there in 3rd place right now, when we have this idea of them being more towards the bottom of the leaderboard, where they still are in the overall cumulative standings. But the point is their performance has been doing really well. They do have a new player this stage compared to last. They brought in MGN to replace Destiny, but I don't think you make a jump like that just from changing one player. But Santos have been one of those teams that have been making vast improvements over the course of the year. I mean, I remember back in Stage 1, one of the biggest issues that I would call Santos out for is how much they just sucked at vertical play. Or not even sucked at it, but they would just ignore it. And then we went into Stage 2, and it had so evidently been something that they'd focused on really hard, and they'd brought way more into their gameplay. So yeah, you can see these wild improvements from the teams, and anyone can really beat anyone, and you can end up with MIBR dipping out, not playing in the Copa Elite 6, and Black Dragons going from having a really shaky Stage 1 to doing amazing in Stage 2. So really, Brazil can go anywhere.
Well, I know where we are going. It's straight over to Villa. So, game number 1 getting underway. Once again, Ollie, Gio, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chunks. Fingers crossed here, Gio, that we get more than 2 rounds into this one before anything drastic goes wrong, because we've done a desk for nearly an hour there, it feels like.
Yeah, you know, it's content. It's content.
It is full content. And now we're ready to full send it into Villa. INTZ versus Santos, a game that a lot of people, I think, are going to have a very hard time calling. Certainly a bit of a mixed opinion on the desk as to which way this is going to go. So let's see how it shakes through. When was the last time we saw a 0 ban?
If you were going to ban a flank watch operator, just go for a Nomad. Yeah, because Nomad is still in play now, and she's quite valuable.
We don't even see that much 0 played.
Nope. And usually you only ever really see him on, what, Chalet, Consulate, maybe. Consulate's not even in the game anymore.
I think, I think that we may be, or we may not be the only people that are fairly shocked by the 0 ban, Gio.
Oh, yeah?
I've got word that we've got a little bit of a reaction to the 0 ban.
Let's see.
Do we get to flick over to the cameras? Oh, there we go. We got a glimpse of it there. They were like, what is going on? This one's in the back, boys. These guys are throwing.
Was it a misclick?
5 people misclicked.
Season Nomad straight in. Hunter has been like, oh, okay, 6 picking off a bit. Well, you know what? I got excited for about half a second there. Oh, here we go. Here's Santos's reaction.
I mean, are they trolling? Like, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'll be honest with you.
It's also just crazy because, yeah, okay, Nomad stayed in. Hunter is 6 picked off of that. Twitch is in. Now, Twitch is one of those operators that has had a buff coming into this stage because she actually has real drones now alongside her shock drone, something that I think we've been waiting for quite some time. And then on the other side, we've got a Mirror coming in. Now, I love seeing Mirror get played on this site, particularly here on AVG. But a lot of teams will like to ban her out when they're banning their defensive operators just because she's pretty strong.
It's got a lot of value outside of the site as well. You know, you often see a mirror window played in master bedroom that's going to... Oh, sorry, inside a statuary that looks into master bedroom. So, certainly an opportunity for an extension. I know that that's been very popular in recent months. STK, I think he maybe caught a bit of friendly fire there. He's already been chunked down and he seems to be giving it a good long think about what he's going to do before just diving on through. Initial pressure here being shown toward the player below as MGN is trying to get himself on in. But Zach's going to find first blood. He's going to finish off STK there. Looks like MGN has the call out, but he's just getting caught between 2 different locations at the moment and instead just chooses to dip on out.
Kind of an interesting way to enter into. Drunks just took a ton of damage as well, just to point that one out. And he's the anchor as well. You do not want your smoke to be going down this early, especially when he still has 3 Toxic Babe canisters in pocket. But yeah, having your Sophia kind of go in there is sort of interesting. I assume that they're looking to get her down into library, open up the floor from below. It did seem a little bit risky, especially not necessarily having the intel as to where that one roamer was. Santos now just droning around up towards Astro. It looks like INTZ have a bit of an extension here. And while we're halfway through the map and Santos haven't been able to touch any of those defenders, makes you wonder how much Santos are going to have to get through before they can even make a move on the site.
Yeah, you've got to worry about their information gathering as well at this point. They've not got very many drones alive at all. And there's still a lot of unknowns. Zach being one of them. He's going to find 2. He shuts MGN down and Hunter. Santos, knowingly or not, they pinched Zach there, but were unable to land the significant shots to take him out. Instead, he's been able to pick up 3 kills this round and has almost single-handedly locked it in for INTZ from here on out. Only 2 players on the side of Santos remain. Cons and Rise. Rise going to get himself taken out by Zach, and honestly, it's looking like it could be an ace here, especially with the direction that Cons is traveling in. He's going to take this challenge onto Astro Stairs. He knows that there's a risk and the potential of him to be flanked here, and Six picking off the Nomad isn't helping that one little bit. Cons has now been able to shut down Zach, but still the round is in tatters. Very unlikely that he's able to clutch out from here. 25 seconds left, and you can just see INTZ slowly retreating. They don't want to give anything away. They don't want to leave anything to chance. So far, Cons has taken out 2. 18 seconds draws for the bear in 9, but he has been lit. Finds one onto Vit. Somebody please shut him down eventually. VNX with the swing. Cons got a lot closer than I initially anticipated there, but still the round goes the way of INTZ.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Cons had no right to get the number of kills that he did at the end there, and I think one of the problems is the fact that INTZ were peeking when they didn't need to. They were playing a little further forward than they needed to. I mean, having the player on the red stairs was totally fine, but you didn't need everyone looking around. Cons had to get to the site at some point. You don't need to make his life easier for him. But you know, I wanted to just point out Zach's kills were particularly impressive, especially when that pinch was coming around, and you can see in the replay right now. And I just have to say that Zach is probably one of those players that impressed the most in Stage 2 that no one got to see at the Mexico Major because INTZ weren't there. So, if you have, I don't know, come to watch the BR6 for the first time this stage because you were really impressed with how Team 1 played, for example, you became a huge fan of them through the Mexico Major, Zach is definitely one of those players that you didn't get treated to that I think you'll probably enjoy.
He embodies a lot of the playstyle, I think, from Team 1, and it's one of the things that makes him pretty successful on those entry kills. Not a player that's had a great time inside of Stage 3 so far, but there is always time for that to change. He was brought in as a fragger here for INTZ, and in this game at least he is fulfilling that role quite beautifully. But very early days, we've only seen one round so far. Santos, on the other hand, needs to come up with a little bit of a better plan. You're going to need a little bit more bite than that to successfully attack here on Villa. It is notoriously difficult to win attacking rounds on Villa, but there are opportunities to be able to do so. Still opting for the Twitch as opposed to the Nomad. I guess there was a lot of value that was gotten out of that Twitch drone last time. It wasn't something that we really highlighted at the time, but the shock drone was actually able to take out 2 ADSs. Now that's maybe not necessarily going to happen every single time, but if that can happen more often than not, it really is worth bringing Twitch there. Already, we're seeing pressure now go into Laundry as Cons will successfully get the wall open. A little bit of assistance there from Rise as a nade was just tossed over the top to avoid anybody from getting in position to throw an impact. Quite early control downstairs.
I was thinking the same thing. That's a very early point in the round to be able to get the Laundry wall open. Nice one, Hunter. When you consider the fact that they haven't brought any denial to go onto the wall. I mean, Mute's been banned out. They haven't got any electrification for it. So why shouldn't Santos be able to open that up? There's no real reason to suggest that it should or would be a problem. Now, I mean, Hunter obviously has to contend with the Aruni gate here, but he can still hold on to an angle. He can still work with what's going down vertically. He doesn't quite get blown up. So that information that INTZ was passing on between themselves was a little bit late.
Another kill coming in for Santos here, and something yet to be responded to. Eventually, Vitz is going to find one onto MGM, but it feels a little bit too little too late. It seems as though if it rains, it pours, and the rounds that start off going one way really start to landslide very quickly. More information available on the site. There's only 2 INTZ defenders remain. Vitz is going to get himself caught out as he looks to rotate up Astro. At that point in the round, you've got to question the decision-making. He was a free and easy pick, and he's now put a lot of pressure onto VNX. Not only being pressured vertically, but now players are going to start to push him on the horizontal plane as well. Gets a peek onto Hunter, but isn't able to land the shots. Hunter's picked up a couple of kills there to close things out. A lot of value being provided on that Twitch.
Definitely good value being provided on the Twitch, but it's the same problem from INTZ that I complained about in the previous round. And the only reason that it wasn't the end of the road for them in the previous round was because of Zach's performance. And that is the unnecessary aggression towards the end. That doesn't mean these players are running and gunning and just throwing themselves into fights that they don't need to be in, but even just creeping up the stairs, coming out of position, peeking when you don't need to, you have to remember that you're the one on the defense. This is 2 rounds in a row now that INTZ have had this same problem. Santos will capitalize on that if you're just going to hand them the bait. So now INTZ are going to be moving on to their 3rd site. We're going to Trophy and Statuary, which is a typical secondary site, I think, for many teams. Now, I definitely like the fact that Drunks has decided to bring along the Kaid because their lack of denial in that last round, I think, expedited Santos's progress that they made. We also have Hunter switching off of the Twitch and now onto the Nomad. So being able to get rid of the Electra Claws that the Kaid brings may be a bit more of a challenge, but they should be able to control the rotations of INTZ a little better. Now, the question that I have with that, Ollie, is do they need to control those rotations really hard when Santos have been punishing them organically very well already? I mean, Constant's just going to be droning downstairs. INTZ are employing that roam that they've been doing the last couple of times. It hasn't seemed to go all that well for them. I mean, we've mentioned how Santos had some slow attacks, but at the same time, they haven't really been punished that much. Again, another really early breach. Again, in this exact same spot in Laundry. Santos clearly wanting to do something downstairs and then move up rather than coming in through the top floor, which is what a lot of teams will do. Oftentimes you'll see teams decide that they're either going to come in through Master and actually go directly onto the side, or they're going to do a south side push down from the ADG side. Now, one thing that they have realized at this point is they've got the Electra Clawed mirror window to deal with, and that's why Rise is down below, cooking that nade, ready to get rid of it. And this is where they probably realized that, yes, they should have brought it. They should have brought the Twitch.
Good old hindsight there with the mirror windows coming out. The perfect counter. Even with the ability to be able to punch the mirror window, the perfect counter is still to get that shock drone in and worm your way through and try and shock the gas canister behind it. But a problem that Santos are going to have to solve by another means here, and they've got plenty of potential to be able to do that. Still a minute left on the round, and everyone being alive is probably the bigger key thing at the moment. Neither team have done very well off trading. That's something that you've highlighted so far, Gio, so I would anticipate whoever gets the first couple of kills here to win the round out, because the trades just haven't been coming. This time it's going to go in favour of INTZ.
That's it.
And maybe that's the way that it's going to go. Maybe it really could be as simple as that. This time it will be responded. Santos, they're able to take Drunks down, burn the Aruna Gate, remove the barbed wire, and they can now start to gather a bit more information as to what's going on beyond astronomy. VNX is going to be able to pick off a kill onto STK, but Vitz picks one up in the crossfire. Zach as well finds the final 2. Santos tried to funnel the way through Astro, and there just wasn't enough pressure coming in from elsewhere.
That's just, yeah, very bizarre to me, just given the fact that going up Astro stairs is not a typical strategy that you would expect teams to be going for. I mentioned in the middle of the round the fact that they were putting a lot of attention downstairs, and I think predominantly that was because they did need to get rid of that utility from below, given the fact that they hadn't brought a Twitch. But other than that, the other attackers who were set up around the map to capitalize on that setup weren't necessarily in those places that you would expect them. There wasn't a cohesive south side push. There wasn't a cohesive master side push. There wasn't that move in through the bathroom and the gradual taking of control that you may expect a lot of teams to do. Instead, they just try to push in through Astro without gaining the control of the space around it. And that's just not going to work for you. So back to AVG. First thing that takes my attention here, Ollie, is Vits on the Tachanka.
Vits on the Tachanka and Drunks on the Smoke. So doubling down on that area denial. Obviously, you've got the ability there from Vits to open up a lot of rotations. You can just about hear that gun in the distance. You can certainly see his ammunition count dropping fairly significantly, as rotations are just so easy to make with that gun. So Vits is going to be charged with making sure that all of that gets done, no problems. But it's really the Molotovs that you're going to be looking toward. It's going to be that area denial. Zach's feeling himself today, isn't it? Shutting down MGN. MGN, a player that's really struggled on entry so far since coming in, obviously replacing Destiny on the side of Santos. Currently sitting 0 and 4 here today. Not the performance that you're looking for out of a Zafir player. And then in contrast to that, we've got Zach on the other side, who's just popping off 7 and 2. We've only seen 4 rounds, Gio.
Yeah, that was the concerning thing that I was thinking as well, is like MGN not really been doing so great on entry, yet he's playing Zafir. What a shot there from Vits as well. I mean, so Rise just taken straight off the board. There's your sledge. All right, both your soft breaches are gone. That's not good. That's not great. You still got an opportunity to do a little bit of heart breaching though, but Cons has had that experience of being left as being the last guy on the team already in this game. He probably doesn't want to be repeating that one. Once again, though, I have to say, it does seem like there's just not a really decisive plan here from Santos. Got, okay, a couple of players coming in from the north side. How long is this going to take for them to actually move on through the map, though? Because that was something they couldn't get past INTZ last time. And INTZ are all standing. They're all there. They've still got their anchors, plural. It seems a little bit futile, in my opinion.
Got to start to try and pressure either vertically, or you've got to get somebody into study, and both of those things haven't worked so far. STK is unable to get in and pressure vertically, and the player that was inside a study, well, they are gone. STK now remains as the last player alive. Going to throw a nade through. Could have been a nice one onto the player on 90 corridor, but with the diffuser cold on the ground, he's left to try and pick up some exit frags and can't even do that. Zach shuts him down. He's having the game of his life so far. This is the best we've seen him perform across across 2 stages.
Santos beat Ninjas in Pajamas on this map. And I am struggling to see how it's the same team right now. They're really, really not having a good time. It seems when INTZ get some of those opening kills, Santos just don't have everything strung together enough to be able to have a meaningful and forceful push in any way. There are parts of the map that I'm looking at that you would traditionally want to take control of. Main stair, if you're attacking onto AVG, this is main stairs. You want to be taking control of study. You want to be taking control of classical hall, of 90 corridor, and they're not. They're just kind of moving in through windows and like hoping that they see someone when they peek around a door. It seems very, very diluted compared to what we're used to seeing.
I think the attacks they've never really been able to get going. And I think part of that is the opening pick. Santos are consistently losing that opening engagement, whether it's by a spawn peak or it's their entry that is being unsuccessful. But there's something that's going wrong at pretty much the start of every single round here, and they can never actually deploy the plan that they've, with the operators that they've brought to do so. This is maybe a good opportunity for them to get around on the board. INTZ have opted to take us downstairs, and I think, while it's a viable site, INTZ are certainly flexing now that they have the ability to go to any site here on Villa, because they've already been downstairs into kitchen. They've been upstairs, obviously, into the 2 primary sites as well. So it's really going for the full flex on Villa.
Yeah. This is a total flex. This is you have been struggling to take us on these pretty default sites, so we're gonna take you somewhere that I don't think you're gonna be able to handle all that well. And you know, it would be quite a testament as well, because a lot of defenders don't like to come to this site. It's hard to defend, but I don't know, what is Santos going to be able to do about it? INTZ have got defense upstairs. They've got defense downstairs. Vitz is holding on here in Library. We saw him get a couple of nice kills in the last few rounds. Hunter might be able to find some utility with his gadgets, is that he's brought his third operator of the game so far, but I don't believe that Santos have been coordinating their utility clearing well enough to necessarily capitalize on the information he's going to give them.
Rye's going to gather a bit of info now as the top floor is slowly but surely falling under the control of Santos. They need to get more key areas though. They've got the north side pretty much on lock at the moment, but that isn't going to be very good for them. They need a little bit more. They need to try and remove the player inside of the vault, also the player on 90, and ideally pressure in a little bit further on toward those main stairs. And with only a minute left to try and do all of those things, time already is going to be running them down a little bit. No presence in on the study side of things either. You really do worry for them here that if they do just try and push the site, they're going to get punished by the vertical.
It's using one of his Toxic Babe canisters. Gonna act as some deterrent, but we've already got less than a minute remaining. There's still ADSs up as well. SEK is just trying to figure out what he's doing here. And he's been a player who in the past has shown up quite a bit, but so far in this game, I think he's just been left high and dry a little. All right, you've got some projectiles being caught. ADS is still alive. The Electroclaw did get sent out by VNX. He's going to receive some damage, but really at this point, INTZ just seem to have an abundance of utility that they can hold Santos back with.
Still the vertical angles to play with as well. The opening kill going to go in favour of Santos as Hunter and Cons pick up one apiece. Vitz will be in position to respond though, with a couple of downs on the side of Santos. It's essentially a 1 versus 1 here. Drunks with the vertical angle. He's got 2 seconds to try and keep off this attack. He's going to finish off the down player, but I don't think he has visual on the plant. STK will be successful here. Maybe has enough time to pick up Rise. MGN has joined in on the action as well. INTZ in a difficult situation, prioritizes the down player, narrowly missing out there on STK. Still has a diffuser to deal with and is now pinched on either side. The barbed wire just going to give an audio cue there. Maybe they've got an idea of where he's going to be pushing. MGN, quiet game up until now, but he gets the kill when it counts. That's one on the board for Santos.
Quite opposite, or quite the opposite of being an entry player by getting the final kill. But MGN finally put himself on the board, which is certainly nice to see. And I guess Santos just decided to enact that aggression at the very final moment. I genuinely thought that INTZ were going to be able to hold that, because it seemed that they had enough to just keep gradually dripping through into the round to hold Santos off bit by bit. And, you know, especially when they downed players like Cons, for example, I kind of thought that would be it, but Santos did prove me wrong. Now I suppose they're getting ever closer to evening things out for the 3-3 at the half, which would be the ideal situation at this point.
Still the chance, as you say, for a 3-3 split. Something that I think Santos would be very thrilled with at this point. INTZ may be feeling like they just overstretched a little bit there in going downstairs. It was looking good for them for a time, but it was in the scrappiness of those final few seconds where Santos really shone. And I think the vertical angle, whilst it was important and whilst the vault control was good to have, there's still blind spots. There's still players that can get into positions in the site that if you've not got anybody else holding and all you've got is a vertical angle, you can get away with getting that plan down, and STK really demonstrated that there. So INTZ maybe feeling the pressure of that one.
I have to say, I'm really happy to see that Santos have decided to bring the Twitch for this round, because remember, this was when they brought Nomad and then realized that they didn't have any way to deal with the mirror window and the electric claw other than playing from down below, which takes a lot of time, it takes resources. I'm hoping that Hunter can pretty much just get in there and remove that utility himself. Then also not actually going up against the mirror window at all. And I'm curious to see how this alibi is going to work here for Vitz, and whether that's going to provide a bit more roaming prowess that could give INTZ more flexibility, as well as the information it could provide if, you know, of course, any of those players of Santos shoot through the prisoners.
It, of course, brings a shield, which is probably what INTZ are really looking for here, is a shield to be played upstairs, coupled with that MX4 Storm, just such a deadly weapon with that high rate of fire. I think it's going to suit INTZ pretty well here, and we'll have to see how Santos choose to deal with that. Drones now being placed, MGN getting himself in below. He's got Rise that's going to be looking to maybe get himself up in through kitchen as well. Trying to put a bit of pressure on that vertical. Obviously, Zafir perfect to be doing that with. VNX is going to kick things off, playing downstairs in the basement. A vast area that is seldom utilised to its full potential. He's able to shut STK down in there.
Question is, does Santos know that he's down there? Are they going to be aware that they have to watch for a flank that could potentially come out of nowhere? One of the problems that Santos had the last time they were attacking onto this site was that they all tried to rush up into Astro. Well, if they try and do that again, even if they kill the players who are up here, they might not know that there could be someone down below who's ready to follow them in their endeavor. Oh, no.
Vitz is just really caught out on that drone. I don't think he's got any clue whatsoever.
He does not know.
VNX still with a bit of potential here if he's going to be playing from below. He doesn't have a nitro cell. But I think he still knows that he's going to be being hunted here. Going to make that rotation at around the 25-second mark. There's likely still information. You see Hornetal there inside of his cameras, who was going to be just gathering those final little bits as we do enter the 15-second mark. Santos still fairly spread out, but we know that they can do one thing very well, and that is scrappy. MJ going to get caught out there by the alibi, and the first kill going to go in favour of INTZ as this execute starts to come on through. All the kills coming in. A perfect and a flawless round there from INTZ. Santos again. Single doorways, single windows.
Just want to point out as well that the penultimate kill in that round did go to VNX, who was that player that we were wondering, is he going to be able to get a flank off without even being noticed? And the answer was, at the end of the day, yes, he did. They didn't know that he was there. Santos, you know, sure, they had this drone that was present there in Statuary, but they didn't capitalize immediately off of it. They didn't do much with it. And it just makes you wonder, are they so focused on this information that they did have that they didn't worry about information that they needed to get elsewhere in the map? Maybe so. Maybe that isn't the case, but regardless, they didn't have that, I suppose, knowledge or vigilance about what was happening elsewhere when the defenders started to collapse in on them.
4-2 split. Nothing too unusual about that in the context of Villa. It's now switched themselves over onto the attack. Kind of strange that... I mean, I guess where do you find the advantage? You know, the Thatcher ban is really all that matters on the attack. You know, if there's anything else banned, it can usually be gotten around one way or another. It's just going to take a little bit more time or a little bit more utility, whatever it might be. But INTZ have pretty much got the run of the teeth here in terms of what they're going to be able to pick. Runks is going to lock in an early thinker. Again, that speaks to maybe the aggression that they're going to want to try and bring inside of some of these attacking rounds. The trades were a really significant problem for Santos, and I think that one-by-one approach that they were sort of going for, trying to maybe rely a little bit too much on STK being able to enter in and go big, and players just getting cut down in the early stages was really something that was damaging to them. So I'd like to see INTZ try and show Santos how it's done here and not make as many of those mistakes in the early part of the round.
I'm curious that, you know, so many of these players on Santos use the Kona station so early, given the fact that it just seemed a little bit preemptive for how slow it seemed to be playing. Oh, we'll see. Hornetow's already got himself down, so I suppose they've been able to use that extra power for something.
There's a pretty hot debate, I think, for those Kona stations as to whether they should activate when you look at them, because a lot of those could be sort of accidental charges that players are taking. I think here's a good example of one that's actually working as intended. Con's just got himself juiced up there because he's playing in the aggressive spot, you know, and he's going to keep himself likely inside of the range while still getting himself a kill over onto Drunks. Another one falling prior to that as Zach, he got himself shut down as well. And that Kona station is doing a really good job of keeping him up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the really important parts of the map that you want to be gaining control of if you want a successful attack onto AVG is that main stairs area. And for Cons to have been able to not only survive in that space for so long, but also get kills while there, particularly onto someone like Drunks, who's this thinker that is a very key part of their strategy, that's huge. Now, STK is just continuing to clean up here. Vitz is basically on his own as he tries to precariously peek around into the hall, knowing full well that red stairs isn't safe either. This is a horrible position to be in if you are INTZ, and so much of that is thanks to the safety and impunity that Santos have been afforded.
Bit still with two angles to check here. Hunter, he's going to be able to shut down Hornet. Well, timing. Unfortunate timing. Gets caught out in the reload. MGM is going to be able to swing and find that final kill. Could have been any single one of the remaining players on Santos. Maybe we're about to see a defender-sided Villa. Cue the shocked faces in the audience.
I mean, look, it's gotten to this point. I feel like ever since the transition from the Pro League era of Siege to what it became in 2020, all of the regions have branched into different ideas of what is attacker and defender sided. You know, I feel like these days you could look at a map like, I don't know, let's say theme park, right? Which was one of the most extremely skewed maps. Honestly, I would not be surprised if theme park was still in the map pool. You would have like one region where it would be super defender-sided and another region where it'd be super attacker-sided. That would be totally believable to me these days in Siege, just because all of the regions differ so much.
Yeah, I think that's why we've had such exciting majors, is because it's very difficult to sort of get the pulse on what a map's going to play out as when it's played at an international event, you know, as opposed to, I mean, we've seen so much defender-sidedness inside of Stage 3. It's been a little bit of a joke, really. Obviously, there's been attacker wins as well. You think back to Team 1, they were able to get a lot of attacking rounds on this very map, on Villa. So there's opportunity there, but typically when teams are well matched or a game is going to run close, it is that sort of defender-sided edge that really gets you. And I think INTZ fell victim to that there. You know, they ran out of time. They weren't able to get any trades. They just, again, one at a time, couldn't deal with the player on main stairs. It's all things that just requires that little bit more coordination.
I don't necessarily think it's a comment on the state of Siege as a whole, but also just the way these teams specifically are playing. You know, for example, those 2 kills that were done at the bottom of main stairs when Zach and Drunks went down. I don't think that's necessarily because of how Siege is, but it was more because they didn't coordinate well enough. And that kind of goes off the point that you were saying. It requires that extra coordination. And maybe a team who's performing a little better would have been able to manage that. Now, Vitz is going to receive some help there as he pretty much was down to 1 HP. He gets a second lease of life from Drunks, who, you know, because he's not dead this time, he can actually do that.
Vitz should be able to deal with a little bit of that vertical, but already he's going to be being pressured. Cons has got a chance at a little bit of a vertical angle. It's not going to be a lot, but it could be something. But there's still going to be players that are lying in wait, most notably MGN as he swings on through. Zach with the trade. That was a really nice little play, but Santos have still come out on top there. The finger charge was brilliantly timed, but Zach is starting to storm on through. And he's picked up the 2 kills that were previously lost and can now look to try and pressure in on the player behind Astronomy Desk using that lifeline. He will do as much as to remove that player. And with Hunter all the way downstairs in basement, it's essentially a 2 versus 2 on the site. Hunter, you can see, scurrying himself back up those east stairs, does get himself back into a position where he's going to be very helpful for his team. And more drone work can now continue. Still plenty of time here for INTZ to formulate a plan.
See what it is they end up doing. We did see Hunter was all the way down in the basement. I'm not sure where he's rotated to now. You can definitely see that 2 of the players of Santos at least are upstairs. Make that just 2 left alive, given that Rise has been taken down, but a nice kill done by Cons. Brings it to a 2 versus 2, and Hornetow's going to receive a hefty amount of damage there, but look at these angles being held by the players of INTZ. They don't even need to have the crossfire as Hornetow finishes it off. Oh, don't run away from him. Come on now.
You got a glimpse of Hornetow's reaction there in his player cam at the bottom of the screen, and he looks very pleased indeed with that one. It puts INTZ 1 round away from a match point, 2 rounds away from tying up this game, and a win there inside of Trophy and Statuary is going to be very nice for them indeed. Santos choose to make the rotation back down into the kitchen. I really enjoy the Finker play that happened inside of that game. It was one of those moments where it was kind of reminiscent of a huge Zofia withstand clutch. As you see the player, as you see Vitz getting himself back up, as you know, he sort of brushes himself off after being down and gets back. You got taken out straight away, so it didn't really matter, but it had that potential, and it was all about the team play. It was Zach being in the right position at the right time. Some could say that he baited his teammate there, and maybe you were right, but that's probably the right thing to do because he was able to come away with a couple of kills, nullified entirely the air quotes damage that had been done to INTZ in that opening engagement, and really just took command of that downstairs.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that as well. I liked that that team play between them, and I thought it was managed pretty well. Now, the fact is that Hornetow has been put on the finger this time, and Drunks has been taken off, so they want to be keeping her in the roster, but just switching things up so that Drunks can be allowed to play on the IQ as they head down into attacking onto the kitchen site. Now, this kind of makes sense because you're going to be having a decent amount of electronic utility be brought out defensively. Namely, you've got the Pulse, you've got the Kaid, for example, both of which are going to be huge impedances onto INTZ's ability to actually make it into the site. So it could be that Drunks gets a pretty hefty amount of value out of this operator choice.
Something that INTZ have been paying very close attention to is the vertical game in whichever sense that takes. Zach going to get chunked down there as he will be stimmed up. There's a live ping onto Hunter. I believe it was Hunter that was inside of that library area. He'll have rotated probably right out by now at this point. INTZ have now got a bit more of a focus. They know that there's the potential for somebody to be downstairs. Zach just waiting for the drones to catch up with him before he looks to storm his way through. Still having a very good game, especially considering the flying start that he had. Sitting 11 and 5. So he's slowed down a little bit since getting onto the attack, but that's kind of to be expected. It's typical for players to really pop off on one side or the other. It's very seldom we see them pop off throughout.
I mean, I'm just mostly impressed that all 10 players are alive at this point. This is probably the one round that we've gotten this far in and had everybody remain alive.
Quite possibly. We're more than halfway through, and it doesn't look as though there's going to be anything happens too soon. Both teams really playing this one quite close to the chest.
Well, at some point, somebody's going to have to make a move, and the onus is really on INTZ to be doing that. Vit has been spotted out, as he didn't actually get rid of the Prisma quite fast enough. It's going to give Santos, albeit a small bit of information. Now, the thing is, you also have to bear in mind is that, you know, so much of their utility is still out and about, but Hunter getting the first kill onto Zach, that's a pretty valuable kill if you ask me, given Zach's performance, but immediately traded out by Vits.
Nullified 1-for-1. There's still a lot of information available here for Santos, but are they going to be able to use it? Hornetow picks up 2, continuing exactly where he left off previously. He was the one that brought INTZ around in round number 8, and here and now in round number 9, he's looking to do exactly the same again. Hornetow, 3 kills. Can he make it 4? Rise. Sole survivor, the last remaining hope. No time to flick into the heartbeat scanner. Hornetow with the swing. He's going to pick himself up a quad kill. That's 6 kills in 2 rounds.
Oh my god, I mean, it's actually kind of brutal. I mean, Hornetow is one of these players who, you know, when he came onto this squad, we discussed quite a bit about the experience that he brought. He was a decently experienced player of them all. And what I really enjoy about the way that he plays is there's some leadership in there, and he knows when to take the back seat, but he also knows he can step up when he needs to, and he can protect the team, protect their, I suppose, the integrity of their chances of making it through pretty well. And there's never really been a point this year where that's floundered. And obviously we're seeing it pretty well in this game too. Now, the only thing here for Santos is INTZ now on Ponto Decisivo, which, as I am told, it means, you know, match point. I could not have figured that one out myself.
You must have been brushing up on your Brazilian, on your Portuguese, should I say?
Oh, my Brazilian, yeah. I've been learning Brazilian. No, yes, I'm fluent in Portuguese now.
Brazilian Portuguese, because it is a little bit different, isn't it?
That is what they say. Yeah, Brazilian Portuguese and actual Portuguese is... Brazilian's like... I've heard it's more sing-songy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's apparently nicer. But anyway, sorry to all the Portuguese people out there. Anyway, the point is Santos have to now contend with the fact that INTZ have already made it all the way to match point, and Santos have been having a pretty shoddy defense, not been able to put much up, and this is why I think they've made a couple changes here. They've decided to bring in the shield. It's a lot of teams go to when things are a bit dire and you want to make life hard for them. You bring out the shield. We've got Con sitting on that. Hunter, once again, he's going to be back onto the Goyo. Is it going to be enough?
It's a last-ditch attempt, really, isn't it, to try and save the round, and already we're seeing INTZ start things off with a bang here. Santos capitalising on it beautifully. Rise and STK, they're going to find a slew of kills, and it's going to leave a lot to do for Vits. I'm not sure if INTZ saw the shield and just gone, look guys, we've got a few rounds to play with here. Let's just give it a go. You know, we'll see what happens. Blink and you miss it. Speedrun any percent. All of that good stuff. Arguably a little bit of a throw. Maybe an attempt at some quick play. But Santos have just picked up their easiest round of their lives.
Yeah, which they needed. But you also have to remember, I suppose, that was the same site that they did win on their... This is the only site that they've won on their defense. And yeah, it was a very, very different setup. They didn't bring the Thunderbird this time. They had the shield. It was very different. But it has given Santos just that extra round that they can hold on to. But I think this is going to be where it actually gets a bit more challenging, because now they've got to go back to a site which they were beaten on. Looking like they're going to be bringing the Thunderbird, which, if I remember correctly, they didn't do on any site other than AVG. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong.
I don't think I'm wrong either. Now... things did get kind of messy when they started coming onto these other sites and they weren't really paying tons of attention as to the whereabouts of all these other players. This Finca was working well against them. It was really quite heavy against them. Santos have actually got to snap into it now. This is their last chance.
I don't think that the round is going to be given away as easily this time. It's obviously just seeing if they could get away with a bit of a quicker play strategy there. And it's always worth a go. So far, pretty much everyone's been hitting the shots very well. Both Hornetow and Zach sitting on double digits so far. Going extremely positive. So if you want to try and get a quick play round in there, it probably wasn't a bad time to do so. But I doubt we're going to see that again. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a carefully considered attack this time, as we have done previously. Likely going to be a little bit of vertical pressure coming in, as typically Vitz has been getting himself in underneath and trying to provide a bit of that value. Zach this time, he's opted to go for the Ash. Maybe really feeling himself in this last round, but he's not been having a bad game on the Zephyr, to be honest.
No, he's been doing pretty decent. Actually, the thing that stands out to me here is he's bringing Ash with the R4C. He's not in the G36C club, which a lot of people have been in. Straight in. Oh no! He just assumed that was going to be okay, and now Hornetow is in such a messy situation. He finally lands the headshot onto STK, but he knows there's definitely another one. Luckily, they've got a player on the Astro window. I have to recollect the diffuser though, as yeah, there was a bit of a messy death situation happening there.
It's a shame that Zach's timing wasn't just a little bit sooner, as he would have been able to get himself on that rappel. He would have likely found himself a couple more kills. As it stands, it may not even matter. Vitz has been occupying inside a trophy for quite some time and has managed to keep himself alive. But as soon as Zach goes and he falls, MGM picks up 2. Hornetow now, he's had a standout game so far. Locked into the 1 versus 1. Diffuser in hand. 1 minute and 10 here to play with. Not sure how much info he's got. Maybe going to go for a little bit of a bait here. It forces Rise up. Hornetow has the heads up. Rise makes the wrong decision. Goes to try and check inside a statuary. That's going to be GG. INTZ are going to take that one.
You know what? It is kind of crazy, because I was going to say the scoreline looks more even than it felt, but I think that's more because 7-4 is not exactly even, but I think that's more because that latter half was so inclined towards how INTZ were playing. Other than the AVG rounds, INTZ just looked like they had way more control when they were on that half, when they were on their attacking, because Santos just struggled to hold things together on their defense. Actually, yeah, I guess I look back at it because Santos only got two attacking rounds as well, but it sort of felt like they could have taken more.
Some of the attacking rounds were a little bit, as you say, 50-50, but those defensive rounds were pretty clear-cut, to be honest with you. I think that INTZ have done very well to come away there with such a clear-cut scoreline in a game that we weren't expecting to be, you know, very clear-cut at all. You think about the couple of players that popped off for INTZ, and it was Zach and Hornetow. They both did exceptionally well there, and I think we were maybe looking for just a little bit more out of, you know, the likes of STK. We've spoken about him a couple of times, had a couple of really big games this stage already, but just not able to show up on the night, and well, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and you know what? It leaves a lot of questions in my mind, because and I brought it up earlier, when you consider the scoreline that Santos had against NIP on this map, and then they had this performance against INTZ, where does that leave NIP?
Well, maybe we get to find out later on today. We're going to bring Chunks back in, and we're going to have a quick debrief about that game, maybe get ourselves into an interview. Chunks.
Good game. Good game all around right there, it has to be said. It looked like things were going to start off a lot closer than they actually were, though. Things definitely picked up towards the end, and look, INTZ got a win that, Ollie, they really needed coming into this game. They were in 9th place, Santos in 8th. it's got to be a big weight off their shoulders, showing that they are still, you know, competing in this. They're not out of it just yet.
It is, you know, and that's going to put them on to 26 points, I believe. And if we cast our minds back, there's a couple of teams on 28, those couple being Black Dragons and MIBR, so really not too far off the pace now. A couple of wins, it could see them get themselves into contention at least for that Copa Releases, which would just make everything even messier, Chunks, than it already is.
Absolutely, it's what you love to see. Look, I'm sure there's one person that will be able to make sense of this all, though, and that's going to be Hellraiser, the analyst from INTZ, and I believe we have him here now for a quick interview. Hellraiser, how are you feeling after that one? It's got to be good beating the team that's just one spot above you.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm just having some issues hearing Hellraiser right now. Are you able to hear us loud and clear now?
yes, I'm here.
Ah, there we go. How are you feeling after that game, man? It was it must have been good beating Santos.
No, I'm feeling great. Feeling great. Win Santos and after Liquid.
Yep, you guys definitely put in work right now. Look, I like what happened earlier on. It looked like Santos had maybe got the jump to a certain extent. You guys won the first round. They had kind of picked things up to catch you off guard, but immediately you guys adapted. How do you kind of drill that into the players, being able to be flexible and understanding all the different play styles? I'm sure as the analyst, you can maybe give a bit of extra info onto that.
We managed to make some counter tactics against them, so we know what they will do. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely did really well when it did come to countering those players. I do want to ask quickly, though. Obviously, you started a little bit earlier than expected. Did that affect the team at all? Was that something that really affected the plane or the play style, or did you feel like you had all of your planning done plenty of time in advance, so you didn't really have to worry if you were half an hour, 45 minutes early?
I think we don't feel it. I think we don't feel it.
Hellraiser, I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the games that you've got coming up, you've got some quite difficult games coming up in the future weeks. Where would you guys really like to finish inside of this stage? Because obviously there's still potential for you to be pushing into that 6th place spot. Or are you just looking to really work on the fundamentals as the team? And obviously with a couple of recent changes that you made last stage, just looking to try and develop in that way.
We still want to classify to Elite 6, but we're trying to make our best for do the team make best.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys have done amazing, and I'm sure we can expect big things from you in the coming weeks. Hellraiser, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Well, that is game number 1. Game number 2 down. How we classing this one? Either way, it is... Oh, game number 1 is down. We've still got either 2 or 3 to go. I'm still waiting for an update on the Team 1 situation, so we'll keep you in the loop when we find out about that one. But for now, we're going to be taking a very short break. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes with match number 2 of the evening.